Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki Jayam Vishnupada Paramamsa Parivrakacharya Stottara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki PBT founder Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada ki Senapati Bhakta Srila Prabhupada ki Mantra Upasaka Srila Prabhupada ki Preeminent Shiksha Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Savior of the whole world Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramamsa Parivrakacharya Stottara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Premsa Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Shri Gopi Gopinath Shramakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Mayapur Dham ki Ganga Maya ki Yamuna Maya ki Tulsi Maharani ki Sama Vyata Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaura Premananda. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, Text number 28. You can repeat after me. Sa Vanchito Patatma Druk Kritshena Mahata Bhuvi Labdvapavargyam Manushyam Vishayashu Vishajate Sa Vanchito Bhatatma Druk Sa Vanchito Patatma Druk Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdva Pavargyam Manushyam. Labdva Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayeshu Vishajate. Vishayeshu Vishajate. Savanchito Bhatatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdha Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayeshu Vishajate. Savanchito Bhatatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdva Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayashu Vishajate. Savantita Bhadatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdva Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayashu Vishajate. Savantita Bhadatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdha Pavargyam Manushyam. Vandrita Bhadatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdha Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayashu Vishajate. Savantita Bhadatma Druk. Kritrena Mahata Bhuvi. Labdha Pavargyam Manushyam. Vishayeshu Vishajate. Sa, he, Vanchita, cheated, Pata, certainly, Atmadruk, envious of himself, Kritrena, with great difficulty, Mahata, by great activities, Bhuvi, in this world, Labdva, by achieving Apavargyam, the path of liberation, Manushyam, in the human form of life, Vishayeshu, in the matter of sense gratification, Vishajate, becomes engaged. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Any person who engages himself within this material world in performing activities that necessitate great struggle, and who, after obtaining a human form of life, which is a chance to attain liberation from miseries, undertakes the difficult tasks of fruitive activities, must be considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. Purport. In this material world, people are engaged in different activities simply to achieve a little success in sense gratification. The karmis are engaged in performing very difficult activities, and thus they open gigantic factories, build huge cities, make big scientific discoveries, etc. In other words, they are engaged in performing very costly sacrifices in order to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. Similarly, yogis are engaged in in achieving a similar goal by accepting the tedious practices of mystic yoga, Gyanis are engaged in philosophical speculation in order to gain release from the clutches of material nature. In these ways, everyone is engaged in performing very difficult tasks simply for the gratification of the senses. All of these are considered to be engaged in sense gratificatory activities, or vishaya, because they all demand some facility for material existence. Actually, the results of such activities are temporary, as Krishna himself proclaims in Bhagavad Gita 7:23, Antavatu palam tesham. The fruits of those who worship the demigods are limited and temporary. Thus, the fruits of the activities of the yogis, karmis, and jnanis are ephemeral. Moreover, Krishna says, Tad bhavati alpa medasa sam. They are simply meant for men of small intelligence. The word vishaya denotes sense gratification. The karmis flatly state that they want sense gratification. The yogis also want sense gratification, but they want it to a higher degree. It is their desire to show some miraculous results through the practice of yoga. Thus they strive hard to achieve success in becoming smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest, or in creating a planet like Earth, or as scientists by inventing so many wonderful machines. Similarly, the jnanis are also engaged in sense gratification, for they are simply interested in becoming one with the Supreme. Thus the aim of all these activities is sense gratification to a higher or a lower degree. The bhaktas, however, are not interested in sense gratificatory practices. They are simply satisfied to get an opportunity to serve the Lord. Although they are satisfied in any condition, there is nothing they cannot obtain because they are purely engaged in the service of the Lord. The wives of the demigods condemn the performers of sense gratificatory activities as vanchita, cheated. Those so engaged are actually killing themselves, atmaha, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20-17. Neradeham adyam sulabam sudurlabam lavam sukalpam guru karanadaram mayanu kulena nabasvetaritam puman bhavabdim nataret sa atmaha. When one wants to cross a large ocean, he requires a strong boat. It is said that this human form of life is a good boat by which one can cross the ocean of nescience. In the human form of life, one can obtain the guidance of a good navigator, the spiritual master. One also gets a favorable wind by the mercy of Krishna, and that wind is the instructions of Krishna. The human body is the boat, the instructions of Lord Krishna are the favorable winds, and the spiritual master is the navigator. The spiritual master knows well how to adjust the sails to catch the winds favorably and steer the boat to its destination. If, however, one does not take advantage of this opportunity, one wastes the human form of life. Wasting time and life in this way is the same as committing suicide. The word labdvapavargyam is significant in this verse because, according to Jiva Goswami, apavargyam, or the path of liberation, does not refer to merging into the impersonal Brahman, but to Salokyadi Siddhi, which means attaining the very planet where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. There are 5 kinds of liberation, and one is called Sayujya Mukti, or merging into the existence of the Supreme, or the impersonal Brahman effulgence. However, since there is a chance of one's falling down again into the material sky from the Brahman effulgence, Srila Jiva Goswami advises that in this human form of life, one's only aim should be to go back home, back to Godhead. The word savanchita indicate that once a person has obtained the human form of life, he is actually cheated if he does not make preparations to go back home, back to Godhead. The position of all non-devotees who are not interested in going back to Godhead is very much lamentable, for the human form of life is meant for executing devotional service and nothing else. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuva Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ya Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostata Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We have read through the lifetime of Prithu Maharaj. We have also read through what had transpired before the birth of Prithu Maharaj. In today's verse, the fundamental problem with the material world has been pointed out, that is, the propensity to cheat, and the bait used to capture people who want to be cheated is called sense gratification. Just like when you go fishing, the fisherman uses something called bait, which is hooked onto the fishing line and then cast into the ocean. Then a fish comes along because it is attracted to the bait, and once the fish puts the bait into its mouth, the fish is caught. The question is, why did the fish bite the bait? And the answer is because the fish doesn't have the intelligence to control the senses. It lacks self-control. This is what we experience in everyday life. It is described that the material nature is an ocean of nescience. It is an ocean of darkness. If you want to come out of the darkness, it's very simple. Just go to the light. Nescience is darkness and Godhead is light. Back to Godhead magazine. You just have to go to the light, but leaving the darkness is not easy. And it is not easy because you are surrounded, not by sharks, by fish bait, sense gratification. Once you bite the bait, you will be pulled into in a direction, and you don't know where you're going. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is asking Krishna a serious question. 336, Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Then in the very next text, Krishna gives the answer, 337. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, what is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." How does one become lusty? By lacking control of the senses. When the senses comes in contact with the sense objects and you don't moderate yourself from the enjoyment experienced, then you will end up attached with the hope of experiencing that enjoyment again, if not now, then in the future. For example, your parents will send you to school. Your parents will tell you that you need to go to school and you need to get good grades. Your parents will tell you that by getting good grades, you can advance to the next class. And eventually, when you reach metric, that's when your good grades really count. Your parents will tell you that by getting a high score in your matriculation, you will then be able to go to a good university. From there, you will focus on your career. You need to do well. Why? Your parents told you that you need to do well in your studies because then you will be able to get a good job. Your parents will tell you by getting a good job, you will be able to earn a lot of money. And with money, you can fulfill your desires to gratify your senses and their senses too. And that is happiness. But reality is different. You can have the certificate, the degrees, the masters, the PhD. Your whole childhood, you worked hard to get all these qualifications because you were told time and again by your parents and well-wishers that by having these qualifications, you will get a well-paid job. We have the qualifications. Shri Shri Radha Radhana ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. You have the qualifications and apply for the well-paid jobs. And then you find out that all the well-paid jobs are occupied. There is no opening for you, even though you got the qualifications. Okay, since I cannot get a high-paying job, then I'll go for the next best job. Unfortunately, all the vacancies have been filled. Can't get a high-paying job, can't get a mid-grade paying job. I have to settle with a low-paying job. If I'm lucky, I'll get a low-paying job. If I'm luckier, I might have a contact that can help me secure a job. Otherwise, you will be unemployed. Sometimes your master's or PhD might score you a job at the closest takeaway restaurant, either as a waiter or even a cashier. Alternatively, you might apply for a high-paying job and the company is willing to hire you, but instead of giving you the high-paying job, they tell you to start at the low-paying job and work your way to the top. Then you spend another 25 years to reach the occupation that your qualifications is meant to give you in the first place. By then, you probably have to retire because you are not young anymore. And so you spend years from your childhood into your adulthood struggling with great expectations only to get a little reward. As it says in this text, you are practically envious of yourself. You spend decades punishing yourself for a little sense gratification. You must be envious of yourself. Prabhupada in this purport mentions the word vanchita, which is then translated into the word cheated. The one who has caused you to be envious of yourself is the one who has cheated you. When you are born, who has access to you? Your parents. It's your parents that introduce you to Vishaya, matters regarding sense gratification. And it's your parents that direct you to go down this strenuous path in order to gain this sense gratification. So in your mind, you think, if I work hard, I can get sense gratification and I'll be happy. In reality, you only achieve scraps of happiness. In this material world, happiness means relief from distress, which in itself means you haven't actually experienced real happiness because you have been cheated. The worst part is that if you haven't recognized that you've been cheated, when you become a parent, you will send your own child to undergo the same process. It then becomes a cycle, generation after generation, cheaters and being cheated. But those in the know will know that the system of education has a problem as a whole, not just South Africa, but across the world. Once His Holiness Bhakti Nrsimha Maharaj was giving the Bhagavatam class, and jokingly he said that school is for training Shudras. The modern system of education is vastly different from the education of ancient Vedic civilization. The Gurukul catered to individuality. The Guru looked for the student's strengths and strengthens those individual attributes. We read in the Mahabharata how Dronacharya began teaching his students, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. He pointed to one student and said, "Look over there, what do you see?" And the student replied, "Gurudev, I see a tree." "Good. What can you tell me about the tree?" "Gurudev, the tree has green leaves." "Okay, sit down." Next. Another student comes. "What do you see?" "I see a tree with green leaves, Gurudev." "What can you tell me about the tree?" "Gurudev, the tree is so beautiful. I want to grow my own tree." "That's not what I wanted to know. Go, take a seat." So Dronacharya would ask the same question to his students and he'll get ambiguous answers. Then he called Arjuna next. "What do you see?" Arjuna replied, "I see the tree." "What about the tree?" "There's a parrot sitting on the tree." Dronacharya started getting excited. "What can you tell me about the parrot?" "I can see the eyes of the parrot." Dronacharya was over the moon. He told Arjuna to use the bow and arrow and shoot the parrot in the eye. And Arjuna did exactly that. Dronacharya saw that Arjuna was highly talented in archery, so he trained Arjuna to be the best archer in the world. Dronacharya saw that Yudhishthira was talented in using long weapons, so he trained Yudhishthira to fight with lances. Bhima was strong and was trained to fight with a club. Nakul and Sahadev were very nimble, so they were trained to use swords. Vedic education catered to individual strengths and personalism. Modern education doesn't care about what your child is naturally talented in. The purpose of modern school is to train your children to become a resource that labors for the country. And the people in power are the ones that profit from your child's labor. And when you cannot perform, you are then fired and replaced by someone who can do the job that you cannot. So even if society at large knew that they are being cheated, we see in the news about corruption in government and so on. No one can generally make a change in society because everyone is enticed by the fish bait floating in the material ocean called sense gratification. Sridhara Maharaj said in a conversation with Prabhupada that school is a slaughterhouse. The modern system of education is killing individuality and critical thinking, and have been doing so for several generations. The people who control the world simply want you to be smart enough to work the machine, but want you to be stupid enough to not realize that you are being cheated. In this Kali Yuga, we have two political constructs that denote how a government operates. We have communism, which means that the government owns and controls the country. And then we have democracy. Democracy means everyone is equal, which in itself is an illusion. When a political party is in power, it is called a ruling party. They are your rulers, and you are their servants. The servants should not have opinions about their rulers. They can make decisions about your life without consulting you because you are nobody important. Democracy is simply communism in disguise. In Bhagavatam, surrounding this pastime of Prithu Maharaj, we are introduced to different types of communism. Prithu Maharaj's grandfather, King Anga, was introduced. King Anga is an example of good communism. It's described that when King Anga took Vanaprast and left for the forest, the citizens would actually go to the forest and look for the king with the desire to bring him back to rule the world. In our experience, we have a successful communist country, China. China is a communist country, and it is also a first world country. Its economy is first class. Even the poorest person is able to live comfortably. After King Anga left, King Vyana became the ruler. King Vyana is an example of what a bad communist country looks like. The people live in fear. In our Kali Yuga world, there is a country called North Korea. It is a bad communist country. The people have no free will. It's a completely atheistic country, as all religions are banned. And the government hoards all the resources that people are known to have starved to death. Then Bhagavatam tells us what happens after King Vyana is killed by the Brahmanas. It's described that rogues and thieves started appearing. Then in the description after that, it's explained that the people started creating a democracy, which is an interesting and indirect point that the Bhagavatam connected. The same population that gave rise to rogues and thieves is the same population that created democracy. A democracy is made up of rogues and thieves, which is further confirmed in the 12th canto. We have this experience in our lives as well. The most famous example is none other than the United States of America. In their history, Europeans invaded America and killed the natives and took the land. Then they brought slaves to build the country. Then they propagated the country as the land of the free. Freedom doesn't mean equality nor democracy. Land of the free meant that they defected from the British Empire and became an independent country. The same land of the free modified the Christian scripture, the Bible, to cater to slaves, to make slaves believe that it is nice to be a slave. And this Bible is commonly known as the Slave Bible. So the USA, in reality, is a communist country masquerading as a democracy. Out in the open, they say equality, but in the dark, they control everything. Finally, Bhagavatam introduces us to Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And through Prithu Maharaj, we learn about spiritual communism. Everything belongs to Krishna, and Krishna has given all living entities a quota of his belongings. This is confirmed in Mantra 1 of the Ishopanishad. Everything animate and or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Prithu Maharaj essentially lived by this code of conduct. Everything that Prithu Maharaj had in excess, he utilized it to help his citizens fulfill their material desires, so that they can wholeheartedly take to Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. As Prabhupada says in the purport, you are only meant to do devotional service and nothing else. This raises another point, especially concerning devotees. Are devotees envious of themselves? Many devotees would have heard this before. Some devotees proudly declare it with all their being. This is the saying. Prabhupada said, Prashadam is the only sense gratification that we have. When you hear the statement, many devotees become happy and even become greedy for prashadam. Some devotees are willing to offend devotees to get the prashadam. On the other hand, devotees who have actually studied Prabhupada's books, heard Prabhupada's lectures and so on, when they hear the statement, prashadam is the only sense gratification that the devotees have, the devotees sense danger. They won't take that statement as a positive remark. They would take it as a negative remark. Some devotees may remember some years ago, His Grace Swarup Damodar Prabhu gave a talk about deity worship. And in the talk he spoke about prashadam and how prashadam wasn't accessible to everybody, and then it became accessible to everybody. Once Narada Muni had returned to the material world from Vaikuntha. He was very jovial and he happened to come to Kailash, the abode of Lord Shiva. There Lord Shiva saw how blissful Narada Muni is, and he inquired from the sage what good thing happened. Narada Muni replied that he got the sanctified remnants of Lord Vishnu, Prashadam. Lord Shiva became happy. He thought Narada Muni is visiting him and brought with him Mahaprasad, but he was wrong. Narada Muni had eaten everything. Just as Lord Shiva was about to become sad, Narada Muni saw that there was some scrap of prashadam stuck under his nail. So Narada Muni gave Lord Shiva that scrap of prashadam, and Lord Shiva ate that prashadam. Lord Shiva relished it so much that he started dancing. He was happily dancing so much that Parvati came to see what had happened. So she asked Lord Shiva why he was so ecstatic. And Lord Shiva told her, I got the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I got his Mahaprashadam. Parvati became happy. Her husband got the prashadam of the Supreme Lord. As most grihastas know, when the husband has something nice, the wife also wants it. So she asked Lord Shiva for her share, And Lord Shiva told her, I ate everything. There was no prasadam for Parvati, so Parvati started fighting with Lord Shiva. She was making so much noise that Lord Vishnu heard it all the way in the spiritual world. So Lord Vishnu left Vaikuntha and came to Kailash. He saw Parvati fighting with Lord Shiva. Lord Vishnu asked her what had happened. Parvati replied. She said that how come her husband can get the Lord's Mahaprasadam, but she cannot. And so Lord Vishnu, understanding the situation, decided that his Mahaprasadam would be available to everybody. And that's how we have access to the Lord's Prasadam. If you analyze this pastime, the Supreme Lord has allowed everybody to get his Prasadam. Very nice. But through who do we have access to the Lord's Prasadam? Through Parvati. Who is Parvati? She is non-different from Durga. And who is Durga? She is the personified form of material nature. And what is material nature? Material nature is Maya. So the only reason why you have access to Prasadam is because of Maya. When you eat Prasadam, Maya Devi is there. She is watching you. And are you eating just to keep body and soul together? Or are you eating Prasadam to gratify the material senses? If you are eating to gratify the material senses, then you are cheated. You are envious of yourself. Sense gratification leads to material enjoyment, which leads to forgetfulness of identity, which leads to more material desires, which leads to entanglement. Then all hope for escaping this ocean of nescience is lost. Here's another significant point. Many devotees become jovial and propagate that Prabhupada said it is okay to steal prasadam. If you go to the Veda base and search the word steal and its alternatives, and the word prasadam and its alternatives together, you will never find the words steal and prasadam in the same sentence. This itself is evidence that Prabhupada has never advocated the stealing of prasadam. No purport, no audio, no transcript, no pastime exists where Prabhupada has explicitly said it's okay to steal prasadam. It doesn't exist. But guess what, dear devotees? Do you know what does exist? Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Krishna is speaking. 10:64-33. I do not consider hala hala to be a real poison because it has an antidote. But a Brahmana's property, when stolen, can truly be called poison, for it has no antidote in this world. 10:64-34. Poison kills only the person who ingests it. An ordinary fire may be extinguished with water, but the fire generated from the kindling wood of a Brahmana's property burns the thief's entire family to the root. 10:64-35. If a person enjoys a Brahmana's property without receiving due permission, that property destroys 3 generations of his family. But if he takes it by force or gets the government or other outsiders to help him usurp it, then 10 generations of his ancestors and 10 generations of his descendants are all destroyed. 10:64-36. Members of the royal order, blinded by royal opulence, fail to foresee their own downfall. Childishly hankering to enjoy a Brahmana's property, they are actually hankering to go to hell. 1064:37 to 38. For as many years as they are particles of dust touched by the tears of generous Brahmins, who have dependent families and whose property is stolen, uncontrolled kings who usurp a Brahmana's property are cooked, along with their royal families, in the hell known as Kumbhipaka. So devotees, the next time you steal prasadam that is under the authority of another devotee, who is very likely a Brahmana-initiated devotee, guess what? As Krishna says, you are cooked. You have certainly been cheated, and you must be, without a doubt, be envious of yourself. I'll stop over here. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful class. Prabhu, when a devotee leaves his body, does he immediately makes his way to the spiritual, or he lingers for 1, 2, 3 days? So his body is lying there and the soul is...
Well, firstly, it depends on the individual if they want to go back home, back to Godhead. Sometimes they may have attachments that may cause them to take birth again. But usually, going back home, back to Godhead is immediate. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, just in addition to about the time duration of going back to Godhead, there was an incident where it was recorded where a great soul was leaving his body and he asked his fellow beings in his ashram, who wants to come with me? The aeroplane is waiting outside. If anybody wants to come and join me. Hare Krishna. Their time will come. When they turn, that's
Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.